Hi, Minster here. Welcome to my Atlas and map pool guide. Many players struggle with this aspect of the game. There's a high chance they become frustrated and quit before acknowledging their failure and proceed to ask for help. Nothing to be ashamed of, everybody starts out as a noob. To map, you need maps, and how to acquire and managing the maps in your bank is a difficult subject and will take a lot of time of explaining. With the introduction of the Atlas and all the new rules, things have gotten even more complicated. For the impatient, this video falls under the category of too long, don't watch, don't bother. This is not the video for you. If you're willing to learn outside the game and calmly proceed to find sources of information to bring your game to the next level, then you've come to the right place. For you, this will be a learning course, granting knowledge to understand and make strategies yourself concerning building a map pool and exploring the Atlas. When approaching a fantastic and big game like Path of Exile, be humble. Even the most experienced players learn something new every day they play. My philosophy is bag, find, steal all the pieces of information you can, test their worth and make them all your own. Right, so the end game of Path of Exile is mapping. And what maps have to offer beyond Merciless Act 4 is bigger challenges, better loot and higher experience gained per hour. Important for mapping is your progress through the Atlas of Worlds and the tiers of maps. There are claims you can go mapping blind and ignore the Atlas, but for efficient mapping this is a fallacy. Now this is the Atlas. You start mapping with tier 1 maps, the lowest maps shown in the corners. These tier 1s can be found in areas around instance level 56. That's late in cruel difficulty. That is well before you are truly strong enough to map. Inside those tier 1 maps, higher maps will drop and you slowly climb the tiers up to tier 16. There are no guarantees you will progress to the higher tiers. You might be doing something inefficient, you might get bad RNG, causing your motivation to drop. Map drops are based on chance, and if you can shape these odds in your favor, you are more likely to succeed, and thus require good strategy. Strategies for creating the best odds require both knowledge and experience. With what you learned from this video, you will be able to progress on the Atlas with maximum efficiency. To understand a map pool strategy or an Atlas strategy, you have to master the basic rules concerning map drops. So I will start with the basic rules and the many exceptions to these rules. These exceptions heavily determine possibilities for strategies. After all this talk about rules, I will continue to talk about balancing your currency investments. For mapping, this balance double dips. Investments of currency into your map pool by rolling maps has to be balanced with investments into your gear improvements you need to run the maps, and balanced with investments into your Atlas exploration progress. I will use the official Atlas information site as core information for this video and dissect it as we go along. I'll put a link in the description. 2 important notes before I start. This site has room for improvement, so I predict it'll change over time. Another note is, I'm quite capable of making mistakes, so I will try to correct myself with annotations, as in text bubbles in this video. Okay, let's start dissecting the official information page. Initial maps. As you play through late merciless or cruel difficulty, you are able to find the 4 maps in the corners of the Atlas. Okay, let's take a look at the new fresh Atlas. Okay, check. These are tier 1 maps, and the intention is that you accumulate a few to kickstart your Atlas exploration. Next title, the Atlas of Worlds. The Atlas helps you to understand what maps can drop in each area. Okay, let's take another look at the fresh Atlas and zoom in on the bottom right corner. Check. We see 3 dots representing maps connected with lines. So if we go to the laboratory in Merciless to start a map and you run an arcade map, then you have a chance to acquire a ghetto map. Then you run that ghetto map and following the Atlas lines you now hopefully get your hands on a sewer. This is exploration of the Atlas in a nutshell. Okay, back to the information source. Tracks your progress through completing maps. Okay, we can see that the map points have gained colors to indicate completion. But what is the definition for completion? Let's scroll down. Usually completion means just killing the boss or opening a chest. Right, in the future for easy mode I'll just mention killing the boss as completion. Okay, let's move on. Allows you to upgrade and represent mods you have added to the areas of the Atlas. This is referring to orbs that can be used on the Atlas itself. We'll talk about those, the Shaper's Orb and the cartographer sextant later. The Atlas is shared between characters but not between leagues. That makes sense, in a new league you start all over again. Map drop rules. It works similar to the mapping system before the Atlas with the now old rules. The main difference is a new rule. Maps that can drop have to be of the following groups. Group 1. Maps you have previously completed in this league. Okay, now I have to intervene. The terminology is severely lacking here, so I'm going to introduce a new heading. Map status. There are 3 possible stati. A locked map. A map you can see as white on the atlas. You might not see it. Those are hidden in the Fog of War on the atlas. Those hidden maps are locked as well. Then there is the unlocked map. A map you can see as a nicely colored dot on the atlas. You have been inside the map and you killed the boss. Last there is the completed map. A map you see as a nicely colored dot and is encircled like it's glowing. You have been inside the map and killed the boss and did that under a specific condition. For white and unique maps they can be run as they are to get the completion. The condition for yellow maps is they have to be run as rares. And red maps they have to be run as corrupted rares. Back to the info source. So we are adjusting the text here, changing group 1 into unlocked. Another group of maps that can drop are maps that are connected on the atlas to the one you're playing on. Okay, I've mentioned that before. That refers to the lines connecting the maps on the atlas. I usually refer to this as physically connected. Another group of maps that can always drop are tier 1 maps. They do not have to be unlocked. They're a special group and they can drop from way back in cruel difficulty. What isn't mentioned, and perhaps should, the map you are currently in can drop as well. Perhaps Grinding Gear Games considers this part of the connected group, but I think it should be mentioned. So these are the new rules. Let's mention the old rules that are still in effect. The maximum tier of map is determined by what tier map you are running, further adjusted by who and what you got the map from. So we're talking about the maximum tier that can drop. This will of course not happen all the time. Usually lower tiers will drop. Okay, here goes the list. Rogue exiles cannot drop maps. White monsters, furniture like barrels and crates, etc, drop a maximum of +0 tier, where +0 would of course be equal to the tier of the map you are running. Magic and rare monsters +1 tier. A boss can drop +2 tiers. Cartographer's box +3, mids rolled with the property +3 levels. A loot box +5. Mids rolled with the property +5 levels, and new league and legacy leagues might have other sources of maps with their own plus tiers. So what if the old maximum tier drop rules and the new atlas rules conflict? For example, what if you want the boss to drop a +2 tier map, but that specific desired tier would not fall into any of the groups mentioned in the new rules, because you have no unlocked maps of that specific tier, and there is no map of that tier physically connected to the map you're currently playing in, and the map certainly not the tier 1. So what happens? Well, the answer is the map cannot drop, simply because it doesn't follow the new rules, because it does not fall into any of the groups. Grinding Gear Games, the makers of Path of Exile, are reluctant to share the exact mechanic of how maps drop. But what known is this: the drop mechanic will, in this scenario, never consider dropping a +2 map and bug out. So you will not lose out by getting fewer maps because of this. So we get the same amount of maps, they will simply be of a lower maximum tier. Okay, let all this information sink in for a moment with early conclusions. Exploration progress through the atlas is hard work because 1. The map you want to explore has to be physically connected to the map you have to enter, and that map might not always be available to you. 2. Even if the game is going to drop a +1 tier map, it has an even chance to be the physically connected desired map or each of the other equivalent unlocked tiers. So for example, you're running a tier 2 ghetto and would like to get a connected tier 3 sewer, while having 3 other tier 3 maps unlocked: the Val Pyramid, Marshes and the Channel map. When a tier 3 map would drop, you only have 25% chance for it to be a tier 3 sewer map. The number 3 reason why progress is hard is there are few possible sources that can give you a +1 or a +2 tier map. Most monsters you encounter in a map will be white and not magic or rare. 4. Even if these sources are capable of dropping a +1 map, they could be of lower tier than the maximum. There are no guarantees. For this last factor, there's a new bonus that helps mitigate the problem: the cumulative map tier bonus, also known as the Atlas bonus. Completing as in killed the boss, plus a special condition. So completing each type of map grants a cumulative 1% chance for a map drop to upgrade by 1 tier. Using the word unlocked is stupid. Non-native English speakers get confused since the word is already used for a specific map status. I didn't come up with the phrase unlocked map, Grinding Gear Games did. Right, this bonus is a major deal. This bonus will help your progress tremendously. You can even ramp this bonus up over 100%, so it could potentially trigger twice upgrading a map by 2 tiers. Note, an upgraded map must follow the old map rules. For example, a boss can never drop a +2 map that gets upgraded into a +4, since +2 is the hard maximum for a boss to drop. So now we've accumulated quite a lot of rules. I hope you can understand it all. Just know there are 2 sets of rules: the new Atlas rules with the groups a map must fall into, and the old rules that limit sources to dropping a maximum tier of map. If you want to make a strategic plan for exploring the atlas, you will imagine yourself getting tier 1 maps, somewhere in the middle of the game when you're roughly level 55. You stockpile them until you're ready to map, and then you hope these tier 1s will grant you tier 2s and then tier 3s, and if you don't find tier 3s, you got a problem, because you will fall back running tier 2s again. This is a common reoccurrence. What you do is you run some more tiers 1 and 2 that you have not completed yet to ramp up your atlas bonus, and then you'll have another go at getting the tier 3 maps. You repeat this process all the way up to tier 16. Now there are many exceptions to these rules. One of them is an NPC called Zana. Zana is the map master, and when you find her inside a map, she can create a portal leading to a Zana map. These Zana maps are special copies of normal maps, so they have the same name, look the same, but have one important difference: they do not follow the new map drop rules. That means inside a Zana map, the maps only drop following the old map drop rules. This will allow you to leapfrog over the atlas. You can potentially get a +5 tier map that progress would otherwise only be gained by grueling blood, sweat and tears grind of getting a desired +1 map, succeeding not once but 5 times. Even if you only find a +2 map, this map could be located on the other side of the known atlas, deep inside the fog of war. For example, I was doing an excavation map, found Zana, went into her Zana map, and inside I found a silver waste map. If I wanted to reach that silver map the regular way, it easily could have taken me like 4 hours of map. By this map drop exception alone, by not following the new atlas rules, Zana trivializes regular exploring, and by that I mean exploring the hard way. And it doesn't stop here. Zana is even more OP. Remember this guy mapping from the Eternal Laboratory? He had to move back and forth between town to reach his stash and the NPC vendors. Now once you find Zana inside a map, you can invite her into your hideout, receiving your own map device with extra possible bonus modifiers. And you can now buy maps from Zana. Acquiring locked and uncompleted maps has never become easier. As icing on the cake, you can get a free Zana map each day as your Zana daily. Back to our detailed atlas mechanics. So in conclusion, whatever strategy you come up with to explore the atlas, when you're starting with a fresh new atlas, it revolves around finding Zana, getting Zana in your hideout and leveling up your Zana. One important extra note: Zana maps themselves are copies of maps on the atlas, but they do not influence the status of a map on the atlas, so Zana maps cannot unlock or complete the original map on the atlas. Now look at this page, what a mess. All these rules and bonuses and exceptions, and have only shown a quarter of the official information page, so I'm going to wipe the board clean. Let go of the info page for now and start a new list with not just map drops, but all the possible sources for maps. So we start off with the already discussed sources, outside of map drops, the tier 1 maps, and inside map drops. And then there is Zana maps, Zana vendor, divination cards. There are many sets you can turn in for a map. Then there is the Uberlab special map chest, and then there is Atziri and Uber Atziri that can, or in the very near future, can drop a map. Truth be told, I haven't done Atziri recently, but I've seen a lot of talk about upcoming changes to Atziri loot concerning maps. Furthermore, there is the 3-1 vendor recipe. If you vendor 3 maps of the same kind, you get a map that is connected on the atlas. Usually that's a +1 map. There are 4 exceptions: Pier, Dark Forest, Marshes, and another one. I'll put an annotation up. Next there is the Valorb. A rare result of a Valorb can be a +1 map, following the atlas connections. And last but not least, there is player trading. Buying maps can be expensive, but usually in the long run you get plenty of returns from the investment. Start late, it's smart to just try and trade maps map for map of the same tier to acquire locked maps, because those maps you like to complete and unlock as fast as possible. The big advantage of trading is you can customize your own atlas without too much trouble, and by customizing I mean you can leave maps locked on purpose. Map drops have to follow the new atlas rules of course, and locked maps cannot drop, as you now know. Cannot drop in most cases. So if you really hate and dislike a map, you can try to make sure it never drops for you. So instead of finding a map you don't like, you will get a map you like, because all the maps you really like you have unlocked and completed. So customizing your atlas double dips, no bad maps and more good maps. If you would explore the atlas solo and you wanted to bypass a map on the atlas, it would take 9 maps. 2 times the 3-1 vendor recipe to be exact, to hop past the unwanted map to the map behind it. A customized atlas could have only 1 unlocked map of each tier, except tier 1 of course, those are always considered unlocked. If you'd compare that single tier atlas to a fully explored atlas, the only difference in map drops would be the quality, not the quantity. So you'd end up with exactly the same amount of map drops, only they would be of lower tier on average since you've got a smaller atlas bonus. This bonus has a huge effect on maintaining a good amount of maps of the highest tiers in your map pool, so you really want to try and complete as many maps as possible. Choosing 5 maps you really hate and keep them locked is fine, that won't hurt you too much. Keeping 40 to 50 maps locked on purpose is a bad idea, since you would get more profit from selling higher tiers of maps, and with those profits you could buy plenty specific maps you want to run. One thing stands out: having a map of each tier unlocked is very important, so you always be able to drop the jackpot map, +2 from a boss or a +5 from a loot box. Here you either invest a lot of orbs or team up with friends. With friends you can share the boss kills in your map. Most people like to solo maps because of performance issues. That's no problem, you can still easily share. Just fight the boss until he's on 10% life and then flee, either by running away or log out. Next you go back into the map and call your friends. They enter your portal, and that portal should be safely outside the boss room with no threats ambushing the portal following proper etiquette. And then you solo kill the last 10% life on the boss. You all receive the unlock or a complete of the map. Don't worry about loot. Invited friends usually won't even set foot in the boss room and just leave the map right after they receive their 1% atlas bonus, let alone try to steal your loot. A solo self-found player who doesn't team up or trade would take from 10 to who knows even 30 times more time to explore the atlas, compared to a player with a team and resources to buy maps. Finding divination cards solo is a ghastly task as well, and not efficient. Trading divination cards to get specific maps can be really smart, especially when they give a random map in a category from which you got none. So every outcome is a win. In conclusion, not only does Sana play a vital role in your atlas strategy, trading and teamwork plays a major part as well. And with those, you have an easy time to fine-tune your own customized atlas. An atlas you have designed before the new league even started. Okay, with that said, let's go back to the atlas details page on the Path of Exile website and go over the rest of the information. I'll keep the map drop rules on top so we can keep an eye out for those. Okay, the Shaper's Orb. Shaper's Orbs are boss drops that upgrade maps into shape maps that are 5 tiers higher. I'm scrapping the word reward, it's not like you're going to turn in a quest. There are 15 available, 1 at each tier 6 through 12 and 2 at tier 13 and 3 at tier 14 and 15. You receive the Shaper's Orb when you complete a map. So let's change some. You will receive a Shaper's Orb when you complete the map that holds one. If you lose or fail to pick up the Shaper's Orb, you can acquire a new one by just killing the boss again under map completion conditions. You can use the Shaper's Orb only once. It will stay active permanently, so think hard before applying the Shaper's Orb. Take this decision carefully. So let's take a look at the atlas. You can clearly see where you can acquire Shaper Orbs. They are indicated by the purple circles. The maps that have been shaped are also clearly visible. They get a circle as well. The original versions of those maps can no longer drop for you. Only the shaped version of the map can drop. When shaping a tier 1 map, the drop rules of those get some new exceptions. For instance, the monsters inside the Uber Lab can only drop tier 1 maps, since they follow the outside of map drop rules. However, shaped tier 1 maps, the equivalent of tier 6 maps, can now drop from those monsters. This is a thing that might be changed in the future. I'll write an annotation here if it does. Now, let's look at this High Garden map. I want to get that Shaper's Orb. To acquire it, I have to complete it. That means killing the boss under special conditions. It's a red map, so to meet the condition I need to use a rare corrupted High Gardens map. Now let's assume I'm doing this on hardcore. Then I do not want to create a map where I would certainly die. On softcore, I might also not want to die, but more importantly, I want to be able to clear it, whereas some map modifiers might prevent me from doing so. So I want an easy map, and the File Orbs outcome is really unpredictable. However, if you use a rare version with very few mods, you have a better chance of getting a map that's not too hard, and you can get that by using a Regal Orb. If you cannot sell bricked maps to other players, there's always the vendor recipe to salvage the leftovers. Pimping the map with a Zana mod is expensive on a corrupted map, but sacrifice pieces can be freely used to increase your returns. So here I kill the boss and the Shaper Orb is dropped. Now I can stand in town and decide if I'm going to use it or not. Especially when you're still exploring the atlas, it might not be a good idea to use it, since you might create an extra map of a specific tier. That extra map is going to eat up on the drop chance of the maps you want to drop. The Shaper's Orb is soulbound. In other words, the Shaper's Orb cannot be put in your stash or traded to other players. The best way to store them is inside a Masterworks bench, so they do not take up inventory space. This is a good method when you need more time to think about your decision what map to use the Shaper's Orb on. One strategy of using the orb could be to ramp up a map that can drop a specific item base you want. That item will have +5 higher item level, granting better results for crafting. However, it's still not really efficient if your shape map cannot drop the item level 84 items needed for the maximum craft result. It's better to rely on random drops from rogue exiles of level 82 that can randomly drop special item bases of 84. And if you don't find your desired item base that way, sell what you don't need and buy the specific base on the player market. So what is the best use for a Shaper's Orb? You can ramp up a map you like, so you receive more experience when you're leveling up and you can enjoy it more. Whatever the consequences of this decision, you cannot lose out when you're playing the maps you like and enjoy the game. Another strategy might be to make more efficient use of your cartographer's sextants. These are still under construction, so they will change over time. Sextants pimp your map, not by the map device or by the map, but by the usage on the atlas itself. They give extra map mods. They are special since you cannot gain them from mods when you are rolling a map. Not only the map you use the sextant on is modified, but all the maps in a radius are modified. These radii overlap and allow you to run a map with multiple sextant mods for crazy extravaganza. Their usage is limited by a few times, and of course by how many you can find or buy. Since the red sextants are more expensive and the hardest to find, its use on the red maps is rather limited. However, if you use a Shaper's Orb to create a red map amongst a cluster of yellow and white maps, you can buff a red map by using white and yellow sextants. So when combining Shaper's Orb and cartographer sextants, you can get a more efficient use of your yellow and white sextants. As I've said before, the sextants are in the game but still under construction. The best use I've had so far was the mod The Boss Drops Corrupted Items, and I put that mod on the Courtyard map. Courtyard has 3 bosses, so I got a window full of corrupted loot. That was good fun. So when applying sextant, it's best to go for efficient use, perhaps in combination with Shaper's Orbs, and you can go for possible synergy between sextant mods and specific map design, like multiple boss feature. With that said, let's go over some atlas examples to test your understanding of the map drop rules. Example: this atlas has explored up to the Maelstrom of Chaos, and this character is going to run the tier 9 temple map. What maps could drop? I'll give you some time to make an educated guess. And the answer is the map he is in right now, temple, all connected maps, all unlocked maps, and all the tier 1 maps. No maps of +2 level or higher can drop, since they have not been unlocked. Now, what if this temple was a tier 9 Zana map? What maps could drop? The answer is all the maps from tier 1 to 9 + 5 is 14, so up to tier 14, since all map drops are only restricted by the old map drop rules, indicating map tier. Another example: this player has unlocked only 2 maps, a tier 15 Abyss and a tier 16 Minotaur. He's currently running an Abyss map. What maps could he find? Well, of course, the Abyss map, he's inside that one, and of course all the physically connected ones, the Shrine and the Mineral map. The Minotaur he has unlocked and is connected as well. The tier 1 maps can also drop, so in total only 8 different maps can drop. If you compare the drops of this character running 1000 Abyss maps to a player with a fully completed atlas running 1000 Abyss maps, they would both find a similar amount of maps. The quantity will be roughly the same. The player with the Abyss Atlas could only find a few select maps, namely very high and the tier 1s. The player with the fully completed Atlas has an Atlas bonus of over 100%, so he would find 0 tier 1 maps. He could find any other map on the Atlas, and will finish with a wide array of maps ranging from tier 2 to tier 16. The average tier of map he will find will be higher because of the bonus. However, there is a mitigating factor. High maps have a tendency to drop high tier maps over the lower tier maps. Even so, the person running the completed atlas will receive a significant higher average tier of maps than the player running the Abyss and the Minotaur atlas. One thing is for sure, the incomplete atlas will yield more Minotaur maps, and that might be the goal of the player, and that's why he has customized the atlas exactly like that. He could optimize it of course by increasing the atlas bonus. He could complete the tier 1 at least, since unlocking the tier 1s will make no difference to his map drops. He could already drop the tier 1s, so this would yield a 4% atlas bonus. People with specialized customized atlases usually complete all white maps. They're not interested in those maps and only in the bonus. They might have a lot of yellows complete, since specialization usually takes form in the red map regions. I'm going to stop here for now. What remains is the map pool guide, when to roll maps and how to roll them. This all comes down to balance of your investments into rolling maps versus investment into gear to become stronger. Making hard choices on that account will happen throughout your atlas exploration. I'll save this information for a sequel, the next video. My old videos on this topic hold true in general sense, but lose value since I do not take the new drop rules and the atlas into account. So I'm going to update the information and make and upload a new video. That was it for now. Thanks for watching.